Hello guys and welcome to ProRPA.com. This week we're going to talk about output methods. So we have discussed the input methods in our previous blog posts when in the virtual environments how we can enter data into a system, and we have talked about the different ways to initiate the application, the keyboard actions which actually act as shortcuts, and they help us in building a reliable robot. Right. So in this week we're gonna talk, because see, once we have input methods, we are also gonna come across situations when we'll have to extract something from a virtual machine, or when there's input involved, there's also gonna be output involved, right? So we'll be talking about two of the major ways in which data is extracted from a virtual machine. So as you can see, we have a virtual machine right here in front of us, right? And we have an application open in it. It's called XYZ Bank, from any teller application or something, right? So we have discussed this in greater detail in the blog post article for this week. So please do check that out. But let's say we have anything written in these text boxes, right? And we intend to get that data from the virtual environment into our workflow for either further processing, for simple output purposes, for being to be able to make it to write it to an Excel spreadsheet, to put it into another enterprise application, etc., etc. There could be like various possibilities in here. So if the data is selectable, which means it's in like this, in this way, if it is selectable, then you have to make sure that your cursor, this blinking cursor, if you can see right in here, has to be in the correct field where you want the data to be extracted, right? So that's why the selectable text only is okay with this process. And let's say we have, and you understand how we did that using the tab keyboard input in our last week tutorial. So once you have that, you can simply get that data out by choosing the Citrix recorder, and in here use the select and copy. So select and copy is gonna select the current data, the selectable data, and it's gonna copy it, right? And we'll put it into a variable. So as you know that the overall operation will take place on the virtual machine itself, the complete image of the virtual machine. So we select the element, probably let's try like this and see if this works out. Just save and exit, because we have selected and copied, and this is the recorded sequence. If we set it as start node, you see it's going to attach itself to the Lily, which is like the team viewer, the destination system that we have, and it's going to type into this by it automatically generated this shortcut like Control A Control C sort of thing, right, that you guys do to select and copy the data. And when it does that, it chooses this activity called copy selected text, and the result will be stored in this copy selected text output variable, right? To see if it works out or not, simply use a message box and print that particular variable value. So if you do that, you can see it's connected to the start node, and we're not selecting anything yet, right? Let's even change the figure too. So something like this, right? Any random figure I've put in, and the cursor is in the particular text field where the data needs to be extracted. So let's run this, and it copied and it showed the data as a message box, right? The data seems correct, which means this function works, but again the only caveat is that you have to have your cursor in the particular direction and the text should be selectable, right? Fairly easy process, very easy to extract data out of the virtual machines, and trust me, it would be far more difficult if you would have done it in even manually. It takes a lot of time and effort. So robot makes this whole process easier, and anytime big text areas or text fields or labels or all this stuff is concerned, it would be the best idea to use select and copy method. Okay. Now, once select and copy is done, the other method that we are going to talk about is scraping the relative data, right? So we have discussed similar techniques before, but when it comes to virtual environments, the reliability of the extraction process, the extraction of data process becomes a little on the lower side and a little complex as well. So you might have to play around, you might have to use different tactics, tips, tricks, and a few optimization parameters to make sure that that the bot works majority of the times, right? Because you cannot rely 100% on it, but at the same time, you can make it to an extent to when it becomes reliable and works, you know, to a larger extent, right? So we have discussed this before as well, that when you're dealing with the virtual environments, it's always a good practice to work in the full screen mode, right? Always, if you remember, we also discussed the shortcut, which is the Windows key and the up arrow key. If you press that, you automatically get the full screen mode. And now if you can see, you know, even these written text within the application, like deposit, transaction, account number, transaction number, etc., becomes more visible, right? And if it is visible to your naked eye, it surely will be more visible and comprehensible to the bot as well. Because bot is nothing but, you know, the virtual human being which is sitting in front of a computer and doing all the operations for you. So let's say you want to extract the transaction number, right? So if you open your RPA bot, you start off with the Citrix controller, recording controller. In the screen scraping, you choose the scrape relative method, and in here first you choose like the anchor point, which is like the transaction number, even with the with these colons. Once you have that, you optionally indicate the relative, this is the relative region, so this is the data. And if you see, the full text method is not displaying anything. It says TV 3.0, which is literally nothing. So you choose the OCR method because that's what is going to be used for any sort of image based automations. The extraction is done through OCR, and lucky us, UiPath provides very sophisticated features for the OCR. So even with a scale of 2, with the initial parameters itself, we are able to get the correct data, right? Lucky us. So let's simply finish it and save and exit. We get the recording sequence generated. So what we're gonna do is, we got quite a few things here. Let's set this as the start node, open the recording sequence. So it's gonna attach to the virtual environment, which we know it's okay. It's gonna find this image transaction number, then it's gonna translate the clipping region, which means it's gonna clip the region, and then it's gonna use the get OCR text activity to get this particular text using the Google OCR. And then once it extracted the data, it's gonna reset the clipping region as well. So if you see, once you get the get OCR, get OCR text activity, you can see that the output will be stored in the TV remote desktop class as the text, and that will be, used. So just give me a second. Let's see if this works out or not. We haven't used any special parameters or anything at all. And you see the data is showing correctly. So it means it's able to extract it. Right? So that's how we work with the extraction of data using the OCR methods as well. And you might not have been able to get the usage of using the Citrix recorder. We could have directly used these options from the activity panel, which is provided within the UiPath Studio. The thing is, and we also discussed or touched upon it briefly before, that there are, first of all, so many activities which are automatically generated, which probably otherwise you won't be using once you are dealing with the activities panel manually. And it makes the process more robust and thorough. You don't have to deal too much with the parameters. Like, let me give you a quick example, right? For the translating of the clipping region, right, which means you have to set the size and everything. Right now, the recording controller automatically is doing that for you. I don't even know what these coordinates or what this size is gonna be. But what I do know is that with these specific parametric values, I'm able to direct my bot to the correct location so that it can extract the data in the optimal fashion, right? So that's what I highly recommend everybody, because I personally have been in quite a few projects and within the UiPath, and I haven't used anything else besides the recording controller for Citrix automations, right? Because Citrix automations usually is a part of your overall bot operations. You won't be, usually in real life corporates, you won't be dealing with just the Citrix automation itself. It's a part of it. You might have to do a lot of operations manually or locally within the system, not manually, excuse me, but locally within the system, like some spreadsheet extraction or copy pasting of stuff and all these other things. And then dedicated remote servers are usually used to either kick off a process or sometimes to extract just data and then do it from the local system, right? So either ways, what I would say is always go and try out these activities. They are really easy to use, and for the remote desktop sort of video demos, I have always used TeamViewer, because it provides really good way for me to interact with the systems remotely, right? So give this a shot. It's really easy, it's really nice, and based on my experiences so far, we don't have these good capabilities in any other RPA software besides the UiPath. So it sort of leads in terms of the OCR capabilities, and it wasn't like people say Rome wasn't built in a day. So this also wasn't easy. It was really a hard beast to be tamed. But UiPath guys did a very, very thorough and good job. And the OCR capabilities, we have the OCR engine. If sometimes the data is way too much, so you may want to use your Microsoft OCR, or we have Abby as well, which is a separate OCR which you can install the package for and start using it. But usually Google and Microsoft, both the Modi engine and the Tesseract engine, they are really good in extracting your data from the virtual images, which are available remotely in a system, or even in local systems, which we have discussed before. Alrighty, please do provide your comments, feedback, thoughts on the video this week, and also if you have any concerns regarding the OCR capabilities or with the extraction of data using the Citrix recorder, let me know. Put out your comments either on the blog post or on my YouTube channel. And for more examples and more theoretical explanations, you can always check out my CRISPR Learning Series book, which is available on Amazon across worldwide. And I also have video tutorials on Udemy and Skillshare, so feel free to check them out as well. They're going to be of really good use if you want to learn in a very short time frame. You just have a very, an immediate request from a client or something. You can always leverage these resources, and they'll really come handy to you, specifically from a developer's standpoint, because all our tutorials are very focused on the development side of the bots. Okay, this is it for this week, guys. Do let me know if you have any concerns, and happy automating. Thank you very much. Goodbye.